let's begin by taking a look at patterns that are kind of quietly running the show. And here, I'm going to start sharing some slides here with you guys. So here's where we're going to talk about the real root of what's keeping so many brilliant, driven entrepreneurs and professionals stuck, even while they look like they've got it all together on the outside. Because you don't have a productivity problem, you don't have a strategy problem, you don't even have a motivation problem, if we're being completely honest. What you might have is a people-pleasing pattern, a boundary leak, or some deep down good girl or good boy programming that is quietly running the show. So let's break these down like real talk style here. So first I want to talk a little bit about people pleasing, okay? Sounds nice, right? Pleasing people, yay. But let's call it what it really is. It's a nervous system response rooted in survival. It's the fawn response, and it's shape-shifting so that you stay liked, accepted, and unrejected. And it shows up in a lot of ways. Here's a few examples. Saying yes when your soul is screaming no, doing what you should instead of what you want, apologizing for your existence, the space you take up, your boundaries, your rest, being so available to others that you become unavailable to yourself, okay? And this doesn't just cost you time and energy, it costs you money. Because people pleasers, especially, I mean, a lot of the people here today, I know you're also entrepreneurs, business people, coaches, you end up undercharging. You end up over delivering. You end up avoiding visibility, sales, and saying what you really want from your business, from your life. People pleasing is like an energetic hemorrhage. Okay. And with that in mind, it's like trying to build a thriving life or business while you're just kind of like leaking power out of every pore, like you're a sieve, So you can't actually contain and use the power that is yours. And then let's talk about lack of boundaries, okay? Because this is really the fastest way to burn out. And I like to kind of reframe how we look at and think about boundaries. It's important because I think a lot of people, when they think of boundary, they think a wall. That's not doing boundaries in a healthy way. And there are plenty of people that do boundaries that way. But I prefer to think of boundaries like a bridge to alignment, a bridge to freedom, a bridge to authentic self-expression. I think of boundaries as clarity and energetic agreements. And they are essential if you want to be able to expand sustainably. Okay. All right. Welcome everybody else who's coming in. Glad to see you here. Without boundaries, okay, here's what's going to happen. You'll confuse being needed with being valuable. You'll say yes to every opportunity or client or request, and then you will secretly resent it. You'll also chase freedom and end up in this cage of sorts of your own making. And then, like I said, fastest way to burn out, you'll burn out emotionally, dysregulate, and still somehow wonder why you're exhausted all the time. And the absence of boundaries is the presence of chaos. Okay. Chaos does not support abundance. And, if you've ever been to my workshops or listened to any of my work before, I'm a big proponent of receiving, creating abundance, doing this in an energetically aligned way, which I feel is really the only way to do it. And so boundaries and lack thereof support burnout. And this is about autonomy. Okay. Your nervous system needs choice to feel safe. So boundaries aren't selfish. They are regulation. They are nourishment of that part of you that needs that. So, with that said, it's like, why don't we just like easy peasy create some boundaries, right? Problem solved. Okay, y'all can get about your day now. Because that's not how it works. Resisting boundaries is often a trauma response. It's not a character flaw. There is literally nothing wrong with you. I promise you. It's because creating boundaries can trigger your fear of rejection, abandonment, feeling unworthy, and of course, like a potential list of other things as well. So I'll tell you what, this goes hand in hand with a lot of other topics that I talk about and that we're not going to be focusing on today, but that I think are really important. It goes hand in hand with imposter syndrome. It goes hand in hand because, a lot of us here are helpers, coaches, healers, entrepreneurs, and we struggle with boundaries because identity is tied to being needed, useful. And this again parallels what we're moving into, which is that good boy and good girl conditioning and programming. When our identity is tied to having solutions and paths, for like paths through, like we have solutions and paths through for people, then we find ourselves in places in our own lives where we have similar struggles. I mean, I always say it, the things that I help other people with, I couldn't help people with them as well if I hadn't been through it all myself. And yet we discount our humanity and we can easily let imposterism or perfectionism take the lead. And then things get crazy with all the things. So as we move from boundaries into the good girl and good boy programming, I actually want to like weave in the subject and the context of identity, because this also reaches back to boundaries as well. This is so important when we're looking at boundaries and people pleasing and approval seeking. Our identity is the internal story. And I already talked about how we love our stories a few minutes earlier. It's the internal story that we tell ourselves about who we are, what we're worth, and how we belong in the world, okay? And it's made up of beliefs that we've picked up, roles that we've been praised for, and the ways that we've managed to stay safe because of them in the past, like being the good girl, the helper, the responsible one. And over time, those roles and behaviors, they start to feel somehow like they are the truth or our truth. And they become, in our identity, these I am statements that we carry around. For instance, I'm the one everyone can count on, or I'm the one who makes things better, or I'm the glue, I hold it all together. And here's what happens when we go to set a boundary, and that's already set up. That identity is already in place. Tasha says, I have all three. Yep. So when we go to set a boundary, if your identity is built on being good, if your identity is built on being, helpful or selfless or approved of, then creating a boundary can feel like you're betraying yourself, not just other people. Okay. And that's really a big deal, because on a subconscious level, we've linked being needed with being worthy. So what that means is that when you go to say no about something, it might feel like I'm being a bad person. And when you go to take up space in some way, shape, or form, it might feel like being selfish. And letting somebody down might feel like actually rejecting who you are. So that's why boundary work isn't just about communication skills or saying the right words. It's about reclaiming your identity from patterns that were never your truth in the first place. Okay? Let me see here. Thanks. Had a little something on my camera. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, so I told you we were going deep today. I don't play. This is already like we're already going pretty deep with this. And I'd like to actually like zoom out a little bit for like a spiritual perspective here as well, because I think it gets even more powerful when we do that. So I'm a huge fan of studying A Course in Miracles. And from the perspective of A Course in Miracles, it would teach that like our true identity is spirit, whole, innocent, eternal, that we are not our performance. We are not our productivity. We are not our people pleasing. Those things are not who we are. And I always say one of my favorite lines of A Course in Miracles is from the very beginning, where it says, nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Therein lies the peace of God. And you can really spend a whole like meditation or 100 going deep on that very reality. So from that lens, when we try to earn love or prove worth through approval or self-sacrifice, we have forgotten who we really are. And you were created already good, already enough, already worthy of love and rest and boundaries and joy. And boundaries don't make you less loving. They return you to love. They return you to that which you are. So then energetically, I'd like to remind you that you are a vibrational being. You are an extension of source. So your only job is to stay in alignment with your inner being, your truth, your guidance, your desires. So when you're saying yes to things that you don't want to do, when you're abandoning yourself to meet others' needs, then you split your energy. And that disconnection doesn't end up serving anybody. Okay, because it's the whole like the old sayings, you can't get sick enough to help sick people get well. You can't get poor enough to help poor people thrive, and you can't abandon yourself enough to teach others about love. So boundaries are energetic clarity. They help you stop leaking energy into misalignment so that you can flow your power into purpose, your joy, and your expansion. And this is a lot of what comes through, guys, like in totally unexpected ways. Oftentimes when people join me in my Becoming More You program, they step into this alignment and reclamation of their own power that feeds their expansion. So here's what I want you to consider today. What if the real you, the you beneath the conditioning and the programming, is already whole? What if you never had to prove your goodness? What if boundaries aren't rejection, but rather a remembering of who you are? Because identity isn't about what others need you to be. It's who you are when you're not trying to earn love. It's your connection to truth, to source, to self. And boundaries, again, they're not walls to keep people or things out. They are bridges that bring you back to yourself, and they really do help others to do the same. So, as I put some of those questions out there, if you have answers and you want to share them in the chat, then feel free to share them or write them down, maybe journal or think about them. If you're coming to the VIP session that we're doing after this, we can definitely go deeper into some of these things, do some more EFT tapping and things on them and bring them forward and through in different ways. But yeah, I kind of invite you to gently like hold the question of like, what part of my identity has been wrapped up in being good or being needed or being approved of? And more than that, are you willing to reclaim who you really are beneath that? Because I think that's really the big question here today. Let's talk a little bit more about specifically good girl and good boy complex conditioning, programming, whatever we want to refer to it as, because this one runs deep, because we're not just talking about habits here. We are talking about identity scripts that were formed when you were young and still learning what you had to do or be to feel loved and safe within your tribe of origin. So a lot of times this role sounds like, don't rock the boat, be nice, be helpful, be easy to love, make everyone proud, don't take up too much space. And it teaches you to earn approval by abandoning authenticity, which is what we're here today to reclaim. But guess what? Again, abundance doesn't come from playing small. It doesn't come from, scrapping together and waiting for some mythical right time in the mythical future that will never arrive. Fulfillment doesn't come from perfection, and power doesn't come from compliance. The old conditioning turns into a life that looks good on paper, but feels really empty inside. And I know because I've been there. You'll check all the boxes, but you'll still feel like something's off, feel a little drained, feel a little unseen. Sometimes you don't even want to feel seen. And that's why we're here today. And that's why presenting this workshop felt so necessary and important to me this month. And I always laugh because every topic, if I choose a topic for a workshop, then all the areas where I need to work on that topic end up coming through for me. So, I was joking the other day in my stories, I'm like, I should really just only do workshops from now on about, making millions and being happy all the time. Because every time I do them on these like deep shadow things, then all the shadow work comes through for me too. So just know I am on this journey with all of you. Always. There's nobody that's ever got it all figured out, but I do intend to be a guide, be a lighthouse, and hopefully pull through some things that have not been in your consciousness about this. So, the antidote to these patterns is nervous system healing. It's subconscious reprogramming. It's reclaiming your voice and your energy and your power. And the problem is that we keep getting fed mindset. And it's simply not the ticket, not alone at least. So, just for a moment, check in with yourself. Which of these patterns that we're talking about feels alive in your life right now? Is it people pleasing? Is it boundarylessness? Is it good girl or good boy programming? Drop it in the chat. I'd love to hear like which of those three resonates the most, or if it's like, up all three, that's fine too. And yeah, let's just kind of name it together, because once we name it, we can really start to change it and transform it. So let's see. Yeah, good girl programming, all three, all of them, people pleasing, all three. All right. Yeah. All but good girl is probably the deepest. Yeah, there's probably one that you might identify with more than the other, so that makes total sense. Um, okay. So from here, let's identify some of these patterns.